Well, I always drew. I don't remember a time when I was not drawing. And I drew dinosaurs and football players and a lot of birds and natural history things. And then I got into drawing faces and people and just all sorts of things. And then throughout school, I was always the artist in school. And in my infant school, when I was very little, I was the only person who could draw. And the Emperor Haile Selassie from Ethiopia visited a local agricultural college, and they asked me to draw a map of Ethiopia to present to him. So I did that. And so I've always been the one who could draw in school. And then I also play piano. And so my life choice at 18 years old was to follow music or follow art. And I decided to go to art college. And I kept playing piano, but I followed art full time. Well, I made some comics in art school. I wrote and drew some stories with 3 other friends, and we made some comics in art college. And they were seen by an editor in London, and they were putting together a new compilation comic book anthology that was called Borderline. And so all of the people involved would meet once a month in London, and Neil Gaiman was one of those people. And so was Mark Buckingham and Disraeli and several people who went on to make professional careers. And so every month we would meet and swap pages and show each other what we were doing. And so that's where I met Neil. Well, it was, we had done a book together called Violent Cases. And I showed those pages to the editors at DC Comics. So that's how we got the gig to do Black Orchid. I didn't know what Black Orchid was, so I was just reliant on Neil writing a story that I could relate to in some way. I was interested in ecological matters. That's why I wanted it to involve the jungle and some eco message. But apart from that, I don't remember much. It was a first book, and I can't say it's my favorite book. In fact, it's probably my least favorite book. But, you know, it got us started. While I was doing Black Orchid, the editors at DC wanted Neil to write a regular series. So he pitched them Sandman, but a different Sandman from the usual one. And he just started writing those stories. And because I was working with Neil anyway, it seemed sensible to get me to do the covers. I was doing covers for Hellblazer, another series at DC at the time. And the story sounded interesting, and I wanted to experiment more with the covers. So Sandman was a good place to experiment. Well, I'd worked with some other writers, and I really wanted to write something myself, because in art school I was writing my own stories. So I wrote some short stories, but they all seemed to be very similar. They all seemed to have the same characters and be set in the same sort of vaguely Middle European city. And they had the same feeling to them. And so they all became the same book. So the story of the artist trying to find inspiration, the story of a man falling in love with a woman who lives opposite, the story of a man who is a thinly disguised version of Salman Rushdie, the story of a woman whose husband has left and this parrot that torments her. They all became the same book, and it became a very thick 500-page book. But I like the way all the stories interweave and the lives touch and play off each other. Didn't know it was so popular. It was just a single story. Hellblazer was written by Jamie Delano, and I was doing the covers for Jamie's series. I think he had a holiday, and there was just one issue that was done by written by Neil, so I illustrated that. I didn't know it was particularly popular. It's quite a simple little story, quite a sad story. I'm surprised surprised people like it. I mean, Signal to Noise was originally a book, so there wasn't really any sound involved. It was a story that was serialized in a magazine called The Face, and we just wanted to do something about the fact that we were nearly at the year 2000. We were hurtling towards the year 2000, and there was a lot of anxiety about that. So the story is about that. And then we did it on the radio for the BBC. And yes, there was sound there. There was music that I wrote and a soundtrack that we sculpted. And it was a more experimental piece. Half of Signal to Noise was my story, the story of the director, and half of it was Neil's, the story set 1,000 years ago. So it was a strange mix. Well, that was just another script at DC. It had been sent to, obviously it was written by Grant Morrison. That script had been sent to lots of different people who had rejected it. So I got a very dog-eared copy of the script. But I liked Grant a lot, and I thought we could change it and make it more symbolic. So I met Grant, and we had a very long lunch and talked through lots of different things we could do with the script and make it much less of an ordinary Batman story and much more of a strange symbolic story. And because Grant was very much enthusiastic about that, I thought it would be good. Well, there were some good things about it. I loved working with the actors. It's the first time I really worked with actors. That was great. We worked with a very young animation team, and they were amazing. It was their first job, fresh out of art school, and they did an amazing job. And there are some scenes in it that I'm still happy with. The stranger, more symbolic scenes. Overall, though, it took far too long to make and was kind of torture to make. And in the end, I don't think the script is any good, and I was very disappointed with the film. So I can't watch it. I can't watch more than a few frames of it before I have to turn it off. But the experience of it, I learnt a lot making it, and I took those lessons on to future projects. I think they were pretty much the first album covers I did. Before that, I did an illustration for a cover for Isao Tamaita, who was a synthesizer player, Japanese synthesizer player. And I did an album cover for a friend of mine, but that was nothing special. But so I think My Dying Bride was pretty much the first one. And then Arkham Asylum came out, and lots of people asked me to do album covers for them because they'd seen that book. So I'm working on a new graphic novel, which is called Raptor, as in a bird of prey. Raptor is a bird of prey. And that book it's a little bit about grief and getting over the death of a loved one, but it's also about political monsters. I wanted to write something about the current state of politics in the world, So it's a symbolic story. It's not directly about any one particular politician, but it is generally about the corrupting nature of apart from the great names like Breccia and Munoz, and my very good friend Oscar Grillo is a great Argentinian cartoonist, and he's shown me work by different people who I really like. So there are a few. I don't know many Argentinian comics, new comics, that are being done now. I haven't seen many, but the great names I know. Not sure we're going to be traveling next year because the world is still in a strange place. But yeah, keep me in mind.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. Cheers. See you.